Thank you for joining Galactic Initiative. I'm your host, Jeff. The channel has never featured a series other than Star Wars, until now. My special guest, JT, and I will review Stranger Things Season 4, which came to an end Friday. Welcome, JT.
Thank you.
We have mixed thoughts about STS4, but to begin, let's briefly discuss our history with the series. 6 years ago, we both enjoyed Season 1 for its narrative blend of horror, sci-fi, comedy, and action. Can't overstate the importance of its 80s nostalgia, too. Much credit to the Duffer Brothers, the cast, and everyone else who crafted the franchise into one of the most entertaining and popular. I'd say creative, but ST is derivative of other IP. Nevertheless, it melds its sources in imaginative and unexpected ways. Coincidentally, I just criticized Andrew Stanton for his work on Obi-Wan Kenobi, but clearly he didn't ruin STS2 as a director. Anyway, since 2016, we've followed Stranger Things through its highs and lows. What is your favorite aspect of the show?
Oh, well, once again, thank you for inviting me to join this call and, again, to go along with the many layers of things that we discuss. It's a pleasure to talk about Stranger Things. So my favorite aspect of the show is the effort to immerse the viewer in the 80s. The music, the clothing, the hairstyles. There was no I that wasn't dotted, no T that wasn't crossed.
Amen. I love 80s nerd culture, D&D, AV club, punk and new wave music, walkie-talkies, banana seat bikes, video rental stores.
Roller rinks. Yeah.
Thank you. So many relevant, thoughtful inclusions from the Reagan decade. I also love the hunt for 80s influences. Nightmare on Elm Street, Aliens, Evil Dead, The Breakfast Club, The Goonies, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, on and on. The love shown for the decade, the attention to detail. Who's your favorite character?
Well, of the originals, I'm torn. I really am. We've had previous discussions offline, but between Steve Harrington and Lucas Sinclair, just the growth of Steve's character going from the 80s jerk, if you will, and watching his character develop and mature behind the high school popularity. This is the act I need to put on. I really loved that story arc for him. With Lucas, again, same amount of affection for his story arc. When you're in 8th grade, before you get to high school, the word nerd doesn't even come into your vocabulary, your sense of image. And once you get into high school, it changes. Going from the Ghostbusters junior high, and now we find Lucas trying to just trying to fit in. We all were. And to think he's going from the quote unquote nerd culture to the athletic clique, that's the biggest jump one could possibly take. You're truly reinventing yourself without trying to lose the grounded friendships that you have since you are allowed to leave your driveway and ride your bike to someone else's house. So both of those story arcs, I mean, obviously I wasn't the super popular guy like Steve, but just the maturity aspect as I look back and reflect on my own life, but also going from, a little bit of the D&D and Star Wars and loving sci-fi, and then finding sports and a little bit of success in that arena in my high school years. It's like, man, what lunch table do I sit at? So those are my two favorite characters. And I have a hard time choosing between the two.
Yeah, I've enjoyed Steve's development over the seasons. I didn't love the treatment of his character in season 3. I felt that he stalled, but something about him, like him. Joe Carey does a good job with the character. What really endeared him to me was the change of heart, the switch. Like you said, from the jerk, the antagonist, to being one of the good guys, and how unexpected it was showing up at the end of season 1, picking up the baseball bat with the nails and protecting the kids. So I've liked him from that point forward. Lucas, being a nerd, but also being a jock. Usually just complete opposites. And 11, as the actress Millie Bobby Brown has grown, I've seen great improvement in her performance. With each successive season, her character is getting better. The quality of her acting, her range, what she's able to do is growing as well. So I can't choose between the three. What is your favorite season?
Whew, yeah, tough one. I want to say season 2, because I think that's where the most challenges were encountered. Things really took a different turn than other sci-fi horror movies. So yeah, I'd go season 2 as my favorite.
Well, the most popular answer would probably be season 1, correct?
Yes. You get roped in at the beginning, right?
I enjoyed last season 3, very much. You and I both like Billy Hargrove. We enjoyed his character for 2 seasons, and well, enjoy is probably the wrong word. You're certainly, as a viewer, you're not rooting for Billy, but Billy was entertaining. Billy definitely brought something to the show. So yeah, he was a bigger part of last season, which was good. All the teenagers hanging out at the mall every single day.
Yeah, that was the thing to do. Get a ride from your mom, hang out for hours on end. It was the place, capital T, H, and E, the place to go during those years.
The Soviets and bringing the Cold War into the story of Stranger Things. I mean, what's more 80s than the Cold War? Very, very Red Dawn, I think. Very
Agreed. Cool. They really dialed up the 80s.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good things about season 3. Are you ready to tackle season 4?
Yes, sir. Let's jump in.
Okay. To organize our discussion, I've divided the season by its subplots. California, which includes Jonathan, Mike, and Will. Hawkins, which includes Dustin, Lucas, Max, Nancy, and Steve. Nevada, which includes Brenner and 11, the Nina Project. And Russia, which includes Hopper, Joyce, and Murray. First, let's review California. Mike visited powerless Elle on spring break. She was bullied by a girl named Angela. Joyce and Murray left for Russia. Jonathan didn't apply to the same college as Nancy. Will behaved awkwardly around Elle and Mike. Pizza guy Argyle drove the crew in his van. Dr. Owens and Dr. Brenner took Elle to recover her powers in a secret lab. Lieutenant Colonel Sullivan's soldiers killed the agents protecting Jonathan, Mike, and Will, so the 3 joined Argyle for a mission to the secret lab in Nevada by way of Susie's house in Utah. The highlight was Elle's confrontation with Angela, I guess. Maybe the struggle between rival factions of the U.S. government. Where to begin with California?
Well, I guess we can start with a love story. Start with Mike and Elle. The relocation and the awkwardness of long-distance dating, again, going back to that age range, number one, going back to that time frame. It's not like you could text or Skype or FaceTime, voice messages, depending upon whether it's 82 or 87. Couldn't leave a message. You're just waiting for the phone to ring and ring and ring, or you get a busy signal. So imagine having that awkward time in your life, your first love, and the lack of technology that we have today. How can you possibly sustain that relationship, and how your lives, their lives individually, change? For Elle, being the new girl at a school with only one person as her support system, Mike continuing on at his school, and yes, he's missing his girlfriend, but life as you know it hasn't changed all that much. So interesting dynamic there. and addressing that with the soft, subtle lies that Elle was sharing. No one's going to share with the person they're dating that, yeah, my life stinks and I'm a loser and I'm unpopular. So, yes, you can fall into that trap of, oh, things are great. Yeah, I love to see you. I'm super popular. And then obviously being caught in that web of lies. But that roller rink was just awesome. Not awesome in the sense of Elle being bullied and what have you, but you go to your typical 80s movie, and that's the story arc. And the way they incorporated that into those early episodes was absolutely great.
The bullying, I was interested in the bullying storyline, but it went away. Elle at the center of the rink and the VHS camcorder. So she reached her breaking point and clocked Angela in the nose, in the face with a skate. Those four-wheelers are heavy. But Angela never came back. I was hoping, in 80s style, I was hoping they would meet again. Elle has her powers this time. I guess I was wanting maybe a little bit more closure than Angela went to the hospital and Elle was charged. Okay, the love story. You mentioned all the issues with technology. Elle reads into every single part of Mike's letters. The teenage mind working overtime, the uncertainty of being 2,000 miles apart, the nervousness, the anxiety, the paranoia, but also the excitement. I thought the show did a fair job capturing it.
Again, the moment at the end when he's professing his love to her, there should have been a little bit more of a gradual build-up, maybe another conversation. And in fact, the conversation that Mike and Will had should have been a conversation that Mike and Elle had. And he's inching ever closer to saying, I love you, or, oh, I have these strong feelings for you. I'm really not sure how to explain myself. And, oh, that's not what I meant. And stumbling over his words. Then at the opportune moment, sharing the I love you, that would have been a better way to transition from A to Z. Again, who knows what's on the cutting room floor. Which brings up the length of each episode. Knowing that they did go over the standard 45 to 50 minutes, they definitely could have put some more time and effort into the points that you addressed.
This subplot left main characters without meaningful things to do. Jonathan, for example, beyond college, with or without Nancy, getting with Argyle, not having direction. Will is awkward beginning to end, and obviously he has a secret the whole season. So many hours of streaming. Mike, who Will describes as the heart of the group, is not with the group. So in the past, he's rallied them, he's come up with plans that have saved them, and in this case, he's in a van driving out west. Yeah, my biggest issue with this subplot is not a lot meaningful, purposeful to do. What say you?
I agree with a lot of the comments you made. So starting with the obvious, Will is just there to be awkward. I thought they were creating some sort of love triangle, but they chose not to go that route, or at least thus far. I really thought that there was an opportunity as well where they missed for Jonathan to be a leader. Okay, so he's lost. Right now, he's not quite sure what direction he's going to. So he's living at home, getting every day, and his mother is not saying, oh, go get a job. Or again, typical 80s movies, the parents may not be clued in, but they'd still be on your back to do something with your life. So a lot of missed opportunities there with Jonathan. I agree. Let me circle back to Mike. Yeah, he's the leader of the pack. And just through the age dynamic of that crew in the van, he's just kind of along for the ride. He's really swept up in what's going on with Elle and trying to figure out what to do, but not the leader in executing the solution. So I think that it actually could have gone with less screen time based on the other story plots that we'll get to.
The ridiculous discovery of the secret lab at the ideal time, at the perfect time. The guys are driving in circles in the scrub, in the desert, and just when El will need them, Argyle stumbles over a ridge and finds the lab. I don't know.
The tire tracks.
Susie, Dustin's girlfriend, is this unstoppable computer hacker. Yeah, I mean, possible? Yes. I guess this season's writing relied on more contrivances than past seasons.
Agreed. It was tertiary thought at best.
Yeah. Ready to move on?
Yes.
Next, let's review Nevada. With Dr. Brenner's questionable methods, Elle regained her powers by recalling a fight against One, the evil predecessor of Hawkins' gifted children. Lieutenant Colonel Sullivan's soldiers invaded the lab and killed Dr. Brenner. Elle departed with the guys in Argyle's van. Once safe, Elle attempted a psychic rescue of Max from Vecna back in Hawkins. The mystery of Henry Creel as Vecna was the highlight for me. Elle trying to remember something she's blocked, and then in remembering, putting all the pieces together and connecting the dots in other seasons. I think it's my favorite aspect of season 4. So, Nevada, the lab. What do you think?
It started off a little slow for my liking, repeating the visits to the Rainbow Room. Again, I understand that they had to layer it so it has its rhyme and a purpose. But while watching, I was given the rolling of the finger, like, okay, let's move it along. I get it. But it did hit some critical moments in regaining Elle's strength, finding out the depth of Dr. Brenner's mischievous ways, even with, 11 calling him Papa repeatedly, really draws you into the relationship and the eventual betrayal. A better story arc than what we just talked about with California or the road trip. But then the siege at the end, things kind of got derailed for me when both of those story arcs joined into one.
Yeah, the helicopter scene and Brenner's death.
Yeah, over the top, unnecessary.
Brenner's survival from season 1 is extremely questionable. He was tackled by the Demogorgon. Our experiences with the Demogorgons in this season alone, enough to convince me that he died. He
wouldn't have survived.
Yeah, he was dead. He's been in other seasons, but he's been there in flashbacks. He's been there in visions or dreams. So, and then the final thing I'll say, Elle's pseudo-resurrection of Max. We established Elle's powers in season 1, and yes, they can grow and they can develop, but once you set the rules of the universe, you must change slowly and with explanation. I can go there with a really detailed and reasoned explanation to open season 5.
Yeah, that left a sour note. We could have had Elle take action minutes earlier. But again, it is a leap. We're becoming aware of a power that has never been exposed before, one would suspect.
Yeah, so last season, because the confrontations are happening in person, I can maintain my suspension of disbelief. But Elle in Nevada having a psychic battle with Vecna in Hawkins and the Upside Down, it's a bit much. And so I would have brought the characters together in Hawkins before Vecna in the final battle in the climax.
Minority Report meets Inception. You got a dream inside of a dream with floating in the salt tank. So, yeah, those are the first thoughts that came into my mind. And, again, when I saw the title, piggybacking, how is this all going to accelerate to the conclusion? And they wrapped that one up pretty quickly by not being able to get a flight or, again, get from Nevada to back to Indiana as quickly as possible. we don't know what sort of time frame Vecna's on. So they very well could have made up some sort of like BS teenage story to get on a train to get there faster. That would have been a little comic relief, which we've enjoyed a little bit more in previous seasons. That would have been a nice little joke to add in there, getting over on the cops to get back to Indiana. So, I mean, my 2 cents there on that piece.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Anything else to say about Nevada?
They went over the top in trying to bring Argyle's character to life and make it more relevant. Again, we're introduced to him as pizza delivery guy, so later on there's a getaway vehicle for the road trip. We have to use the pizza shop franchisee, if you will. Oh, let's go ahead and use the cooler and use the salt. It was a stretch. That piece was a stretch.
Sullivan's agents would have been focused on that Surfer Boy pizza delivery van and been able to find it driving across 3 different states. And I'll have other things to say about law enforcement later. But this is an instance where, yeah, again, you're stretching, you're breaking my suspension of disbelief. This is a very noticeable, obvious vehicle while on the run from the U.S. government.
So stopping for gas, stopping for food, stopping for bathroom breaks, paying for all those things. Yeah, we're just supposed to believe that they just jumped in a van after a shootout in their house and just decided, hey, we got everything we need here. Let's go ahead and drive to Nevada.
And again, in past seasons, I felt that the stories developed organically or naturally. You made a comment earlier. Characters are ending up in places where the plot needs them to be, in circumstances that the plot needs to happen. Third, let's review Russia. Joyce and Murray extricated Hopper from a Soviet gulag with an upside-down menagerie. A smuggler named Yuri and a guard named Dmitri were reluctant helpers. The subplot featured a plane crash, several foiled getaways, and battles with Demogorgons. Hard-pressed to choose a highlight, Hopper's relationship with Dmitri, the bromance, 2 good actors, well-performed and believable. What are your thoughts about Russia?
Yeah, I didn't know where they were going to go when they first introduced this. I was waiting with bated breath when they're deciding and like, oh, no, not the American. And I'm like, okay, so they got big plans for Hopper here. And obviously we know I'm wanting to find out what's the Russian end of what's going on and how are they handling it and what are they going to use from their experimentation. So I thought they were going to go in a very different direction there, but obviously you have to feed the beast, if you will, and bypassing the American really got me excited for what was to come. And like you, again, the plane crash and walking away, all 3 of them walking away unscathed and finding their way to the prison and getting into the prison. Again, I don't have to rehash it. Everyone has already seen it. Just to sum it up, unbelievable.
Joyce and Hopper and Murray and Yuri and Dmitri influence events in Hawkins. There are other Demogorgons, part of the Shadow Monster, and just the lack of Soviet surveillance in the camp, over the phone, through the mail, in the airspace. And the show's been reluctant to kill main characters. I don't expect or want Game of Thrones, but we're in season 4. Maybe Hopper was supposed to die at the end of season 3. This subplot could have been tight and simple. Why they chose to go so big and thus unbelievable, I'm calling BS.
Again, tying it all together, and it really didn't need to be tied together. You could leave that subplot onto itself and just getting their parents back.
Exactly.
That's important enough.
Exactly.
Just getting their parents back would have been the fairy tale ending for the kids. That doesn't have to impact anything that's going on with Vecna or what have you. That piece was completely BS and just shy of the Arnold Schwarzenegger pose. you need to have, and I'm not sure where that sword came from. I mean, I know in previous scenes they fatten them up.
I think it came off the set of 300.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. This is Sparta. But yeah, that was, again, comical. Again, the inconsistencies. How exactly can you harm and or kill a Demogorgon? Okay, so they go through the lab, different iterations of the creature. Is that what we're supposed to believe? Why they couldn't die with bullets? I'm not sure. But again, there's so many things they tried to layer in, almost too many ideas into a subplot, which really didn't impact the overall story. Unnecessary.
Too much.
Too much Yuri.
Yeah, beyond the flight into Soviet Russia, Yuri's just annoying. But again, this was the worst subplot. This was very, very rough.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Ready for Hawkins?
Yes, let's get to Hawkins.
Vecna sought to kill 4 teens using his psychic powers. The townspeople blamed Hellfire, a D&D club led by Eddie Munson. He was wanted for murder. Nancy and Robin investigated the mysterious Creel house, which pointed them to Vecna. Jason Carver, basketball captain, pursued Eddie for his girlfriend's murder. Max almost became Vecna's 3rd victim, and after her narrow escape, she outlined a plan to destroy him. Dustin and Eddie physically distracted Demobats. Yes, Demobats. That's what they're called. And Max mentally distracted Vecna so Nancy, Robin, and Steve could destroy Vecna's body in the Upside Down. Lucas protected Max's body until Jason interfered. The entire crew reunited, Max entered a coma, and a cataclysm enveloped the town. Where to start with Hawkins?
Well, again, you gave me the baton the first 3, so I definitely want to hand it back to you. But I will preface with this: Hawkins should and will remain, the focal point of the story. I did like the fact that it wrapped up back at Hopper's cabin, but the outline and introduction to this piece, spot on. And I'm curious where you would like to take this first.
Okay, I like Eddie. I like Hellfire. I like playing on the paranoia of the 80s, Dungeons and Dragons and satanic cults. The Creel house is great. The backstory, Victor Creel, the family, great job setting up the reveal, Elle's discovery from the lab in Nevada. Horror, mystery, excellent. Maybe we have too many characters doing too many things. It's easy enough to follow, it's not complicated, and yet we're ping-ponging around maybe a little bit more than we should. We didn't use Jason Carver. Jason Carver in the opening episodes, he's a main character to open, and then he's gone, and then he's back for a heartbeat. Why is it that Vecna can only murder teenagers? But
yeah, if I can interject, great question. And also a huge swing and miss on the writer's behalf, because we never really got a chance to understand the pain, other than Max, who we already know. We didn't get a chance to understand the pain of the previous 3 victims. With the cheerleader, with seeing Eddie and trying to get drugs, I would have written that piece completely differently. Eddie is a shady dude you don't want to be associated with. He doesn't necessarily have to deal drugs. Then with the journalist, his flashback is this car crash. Again, nothing but questions.
Very abrupt.
Okay, and then the basketball player. What we know and learn about Max is that Vecna is preying upon her bad memories, her demons. We don't know those other 3 characters. What are their demons? Coming full circle to the question you put out there, why is it only high school kids?
Henry murders his mom, his sister, neither of them teenagers. Tried to murder his father, so that would be 3. as we're learning about Henry, but we don't realize Henry is Vecna, that Henry's one, that Henry's the murderer yet, that he's evil. Before we get to that point, it would have been great to establish 4 was necessary and given us some foreshadowing.
I agree on all points. His murders didn't equal 4. Why is it that he has to kill 4? Why does it take so long? Drawing that correlation with 4, the Krill House having those earthquakes or those portals, gaps opening up and separate Hawkins from the rest of the world.
Okay, so you're drawing on one of your favorite shows, WandaVision.
That's the watermark that everything is measured against.
Now I realize, he wasn't Vecna when he killed his family, when he killed the kids in the lab. He only became Vecna after El pushed him through a portal into another dimension. I get that. Okay, so 4 murders. We need an explanation. Eddie's death. I was hoping Eddie would go forward into season 5. Fine. Again, I can't criticize the show for not killing characters and then criticize the show for killing characters. Okay, fine. So Eddie dies. But the nature of his death, it's insulting in many ways.
It is. And Jason should have been found to be the one that was not leading the town in the right direction when he interrupts the town meeting. And Eddie should have been vindicated. And just taking a bicycle and accelerating is hard enough. You're going to outrun all these bats. I actually liked the character and disappointed with how it ended. Even going back to one of his dying lines, this was going to be my year. I thought last year was going to be your year. Like little things like that. He's been a senior 3 times. I like him even more now. And it's unfortunate the way he was written out. But I'll go back when I rewatch this season at a later date. And I'll laugh a little bit harder, knowing that I'm not going to get a chance to laugh a little bit later.
A criticism. Hawkins PD disappears. They institute a curfew. They call a town meeting. Okay, the trailer park, after Chrissy's murder, there are kids and adults outdoors after curfew. Steve and the crew, they steal an RV and they drive it to a weapons store. The folks didn't call 911 as soon as their RV was stolen, and the police wouldn't be on the lookout for it, and they wouldn't be on heightened alert. The new chief, he's a big part of the early episodes, and then gone.
Yeah, after the town hall meeting. The basketball team can find Eddie, but no one else can. And I'm not sure if you recognize this. I'm sure you did. But Dustin, we're talking one of the main characters, and we haven't even mentioned his name at all, other than the fact that he might have been present in a scene. Dustin wasn't even a factor.
He had his moment with the compass. He helped solve part of the mystery of the Krill House. I guess his arc is really with Eddie in this season.
Yeah.
And we can understand why Dustin looks up to Eddie, but is Eddie playing a role that's any different from Steve, and you have Steve available? I was going to argue Robin, but I was going to make the same argument. And it's not an argument against Robin. It's Dustin's character suffering. So last season, Robin deciphered the Russians' plan and got them below ground at the mall, and basically she drove that subplot forward, and Dustin and Steve were, along for the ride. I feel like Dustin's diminished role came as a trade-off for Robin's increased role. Maybe that's an oversimplification. What do you think?
I think they took time away from those characters to invest more time in Vecna.
Okay.
So
all of them. All of them sacrificed time.
All of them sacrificed to build up Vecna.
What did you like most about season 4?
The 4 different plot lines that we outlined and layering in the story. Again, the twist with Henry and 1, that was, I can't say it was a complete surprise. You kind of figured something like that would be coming, but the way they revealed it and the depth and scope made it better. The baseline was there for something really epic.
What's your biggest complaint?
The pace. You give depth in certain areas where it's unnecessary, and you skip past and through things so quickly that really could have had me captivated and salivating for more. If we stayed at the pace as the first 7 episodes, but the last 2 episodes at light speed, which I'm not a fan of, I would have rather had a cliffhanger.
When you say cliffhanger, to be clear,
I'd say like the middle portion of the fight scene with Vecna.
Okay, you would have ended the season at that point?
Absolutely. Keep them wanting more.
We're shown that the town is recovering from the, air quotes, earthquake. But then, as they're standing at the cabin, we see that the fissures in the ground are still active and there are fires burning all over town. It was very like, I got a Raccoon City vibe.
Completely.
Yeah. What is your rating for season 4 out of 10? 10 being best.
It's a fantastic question. At least a 7, maybe a little higher. It wasn't their best season. Was it their worst? For me, season 2, season 1, I think I'd go season 3, then season 4. And are we being harsh critics? Well, we're entitled to, because we have how many other hours of episodes and storytelling that you've shown us what you can do. You get to that point where the budget finally catches up with the idea, but then they rush with too many ideas now that they have this budget. 7 episodes of an hour and 15 each, plus 2 movies, a 90-minute movie and a 2-hour movie. This is the most screen time in one season, and we have more criticisms than praise of it. So they didn't use their time wisely. So I think, not that my assessment is accurate, but I do believe it's fair.
Looking forward to season 5, or on the fence? Not looking forward to it?
I'm looking forward. I mean, because, again, for all intents and purposes, it is the last season. I mean, I was excited to watch the last 2 episodes. I mean, again, no exaggeration. I woke up early and watched both of them back to back. So that's how excited I was based on the first 7 episodes. And again, it was more that cliffhanger feeling, right? Confirming my own thought.
I concur. I'm struggling to quantify my ratings. 8.5 out of 10.
Interesting.
So in terms of ranking top to bottom, it's 1, 3, 2, 4.
All right, fair enough.
Our discussion of Stranger Things Season 4 has come to an end. Thank you, JT.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. This has been great to reminisce about seasons past, and we'll see what the future holds on your show.
To our viewers, thank you for sticking with the video to this point, to finishing it. More Stranger Things videos to come in the future. Main focus of the channel will remain Star Wars, but we're excited to branch out a little bit. This show was a lot of fun to create. Thanks again. Check out Galactic Initiative for all things Star Wars, and talk to you soon.
It is time for the disclaimer. Galactic Initiative is not authorized or endorsed by Netflix. The names Stranger Things and all related materials are registered trademarks of Netflix. Galactic Initiative is a registered trademark, and other product and company names are trademarks of their respective holders. Use does not imply affiliation or endorsement. Your suffering is